The European Union is getting a new top diplomat. Estonia's former Prime Minister Kaja Kallas is expected to be confirmed as foreign policy chief. She's a staunch supporter of Ukraine and was one of the first European leaders to warn of Russia's expansionist designs. As she takes charge, she faces multiple challenges, not only to contain Russia, but also on how to deal with the incoming American president.
In her new role as the European Union's foreign policy chief, former Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas faces a challenge: how to deal with Donald Trump. While Trump has threatened to cut off all aid to Ukraine and end the war before he takes office, Kallas has been a vocal supporter of the country. She says European security is personal for her. As a native of a country that was long under Soviet rule, she has often warned others about Russia's imperialist ambitions.
Victory of Ukraine is a priority for us all. The situation on the battlefield is very difficult. And that is why we must keep on working every day, today, tomorrow, and for as long as it takes, and with as much military, financial, and humanitarian aid as needed.
Kallas and Trump may not see eye to eye on the need to help Ukraine, but both leaders want European states to spend more on defense.
Kallas, because she is Estonian, coming from the eastern flank, is a dynamic woman who is coming from a country that is scrappy and is definitely paying its fair share when it comes to defense costs. A starting point is better than you would have had with many European countries. In some ways, it's an opportunity for a fresh start.
Even when it comes to China, Kallas's views may appeal to Trump. In a recent letter to the European Parliament, Kallas slammed Beijing's close ties with Moscow and said that China's excessive state subsidies make for unfair competition and an uneven playing field. Kallas says the Middle East is also high on her agenda.
There are two urgent priorities very close to us: Russia's war against Ukraine and the open conflict in the Middle East.
But some lawmakers worry she may limit the role the EU can play in resolving the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians.
Well, I'm very much concerned because until now we haven't heard about her policies on Middle East, and also the lack of engagement until now has been very evident.
It's rarely easy to bring together the EU's 27 member states on complicated and often divisive foreign policy choices. But experts say Kallas is a team player who will work on both transatlantic consensus on Russia and on broader unity.
Happy to see you again, Hol. Today.
DW's Rosie Burchard has more from Brussels.
Kallas said she wants to seek new connections with the Trump administration. And while she was being grilled by parliamentarians here in Brussels, it seemed to me that what she said was as much a pitch to them as it was a pitch right across the Atlantic to the Trump administration, because on several occasions she talked about why she believes that what happens in Ukraine matters for US interests. She also said that if the US cares about what happens in the South China Sea, and of course that includes Taiwan, then it should care about what happens with Russia's aggression in Ukraine. So a pretty clear stance from Kallas there, which is to be expected given her past history on this topic. Less clarity on her position on the Middle East. She called for a ceasefire, she called for the release of hostages, and she called for what she said was restraint from all parties. Now, that is pretty much the bare minimum in terms of EU messaging, and it's a gear shift from her predecessor, Josep Borrell, who was really seen as quite an outspoken critic of Israeli actions in Gaza. She seemed much more hesitant to explicitly offer any kind of criticism, and that change in tone will be welcome to some and really disappointing to others. Now, of course, that's not the only topic on her list. She will be the European Union's face in the world. She talked about a big summit with African leaders in 2025 and about increasing cooperation on climate change with the Caribbean and with Latin American countries. But of course, it's a pretty crowded geopolitical space on that global stage. She talked also about expanding Russian and Chinese influence. So really, one thing is clear after Kallas' hearing, and that is that she really has her work cut out for her.